What's going on, everybody? Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are enjoying the final week. Are we there? In the month of February. Yeah, I guess final week, because this month's 28 days. I always get confused, 28, 29, leap year, whatever the case may be. It is Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. We are live on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. We do this weekly, sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. We're working on getting up to 100 times a week. Hopefully our producer, Charlotte Cushing, is cool with that. So we'll see about that, but make sure to stay tuned to what we're doing. In case we do hit that century mark, you can subscribe to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel right below you. Make sure you do that because we have fantastic things coming out all the time, some film reviews, some fun stuff, recaps, all that fun jazz. It is the off season after all. But yeah, so it is Wednesday and it is the middle of February, late February, that is. That's your calendar update for, for the month of February, I suppose. But either way, I think we're starting to reach the point in the off season where people are getting antsy. And I think this has been a really antsy time when it comes to the subject of Dak Prescott. We've been talking a lot about this. Daz Jackson says, I'm ready to watch what has to be said. Let's go. DeLunatic says, go Cowboys. DC4L, that's right. Austin says, Richard Sherman, already jumping the gun here. Appreciate that enthusiasm, Austin. But so lots is being said about, obviously, Dak Prescott. We're going to talk about other free agent fits for the Cowboys right now. And by fits, we're using that term a little bit loosely. All right, these are options. Chase Edmonds for the Arizona Cardinals had a great tweet last week talking about, you look at the reality that the NFL is currently operating in, obviously dealing with the pandemic and the salary cap ramifications from it all. We know that the salary cap floor this season is going to be $180 million. The height, the roof, shout out to the ceiling that is the roof, of course, said by the GOAT, MJ, is not quite certain yet, but it's anticipated somewhere approximately around $183 million. So that is kind of the salary cap that the Cowboys are going to be working with. Again, priority numero uno, locking down Dak Prescott. However, the Dallas Cowboys are going to have some other holes to fill, and I think that we should really consider, and I know this is tough because we don't want to get too excited as Dallas Cowboys fans because, frankly, we've been let down. We've been hurt. We've been devastated. Frankly, that happens all the time. But I thought that this tweet from Chase Edmonds, and a lot of people talked about this, he said that there are going to be a lot of one-year deals in the NFL this year and that teams are going to be building super teams or dream teams, whatever the verbiage is this year. And the reason for that is because the salary cap is going to be a little bit lower, because of the reality that the world is still dealing with, the reality that the NFL is still dealing with. Now is the time, honestly, to build a super team. And I think when people think super team, they think, well, we got this guy on a 5-year deal and this guy on a 6-year deal and this guy on a 4-year deal, whatever. No. Now's the time to just focus on now. Now's the time to completely have tunnel vision. Now is the time to totally focus on what is right in front of you. And if you're the Cowboys, or honestly, if you're the Buccaneers, or if you're the Chiefs or whoever, it makes sense to just hand out a bunch of 1-year deals so you only worry about the here and now and focus on winning a Super Bowl right now, right? Because they still count. And if you're a player, think about J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt's a really good example. J.J. Watt is not among the players that we'll be discussing today, sorry. But if you're J.J. Watt, and he is a very particular example because he has made an extraordinary amount of money so far throughout his NFL career. But if you're J.J. Watt, right now your focus is not money. Right now your focus is your legacy. Your focus is on getting that bag, proverbially speaking, when it comes to titles, when it comes to winning a ring and all that jazz. If you're J.J. Watt or whoever, like Chase Edmonds pointed out, it makes sense to chase the title now. We see a lot of players make money all throughout their careers, and this is super easy to say from, somebody who's not in those positions, right? But it makes sense to say, you know what, in 2021, I'm going to focus on a title. I'm going to go ring chase. I'm going to go join up with one of these super teams, whether it's the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay, whether it's the Rams in Los Angeles. I'm going to go be part of that. I'm going to get my ring, and then next year when the salary cap rises back to normal, God willing, when everything's back to normal throughout the world, then I will get paid. That is, I think, an approach that we are going to see a lot of teams really apply. Now, whether the Cowboys want to dive into that remains to be seen. We know that the Cowboys are, how do we put this, frugal when it comes to spending money in free agency. In fact, Chris Killen says, stop being cheap, Stephen Jones, and let's spend on Justin Simmons or Marcus May. Even Trey Boston is now available. Cowboys all day. The Lunatic says, how can you look at free agency additions if you don't know how much money you have? Sign Dak long-term, lower his cap hit, and restructure Amari Cooper, Lyle Collins, and Zach Martin. There needs to be a free agent week 1 player. I think the point here is the Cowboys need to be a player in week 1 of free agency. And I agree with that. And look, nobody here at Blogging the Boys is going to tell you that signing Dak Prescott is a bad idea. All right? Nobody here. We have been Team Dak forever. We have been Team Pay Dak for the last 2 years now, since he first became eligible for a contract extension. We've talked about this 1,000 times. It made sense then to pay him and extend him. And here's what people don't get. And some people don't get. Not you, because you're a genius. But some people don't get that the price is only going to go up. And so if you pay the price that it is right now, when it goes up, your price will look awesome. That's the reality of it. But the Cowboys are chasing something that they really ultimately want and need, and they seem to think that the price is going to chill out a little bit. This is not the best example, but it's a little bit of a personal example. I'm still on the hunt for a PS5, all right? And there are some people out there who really want a PS5, and we're willing to pay the 500% increase that people put on eBay or whatever because they want the PS5 that badly. I'm willing to wait. I'm being cool about this. But the point is that the Cowboys can't wait. The Cowboys are looking for a PS5 for their kid for Christmas, and it's December 21st, and they don't have any time. It's going to take 3 days to ship, and the Cowboys know that the PS5 retail price is, $500, but they're looking at eBay, and the cheapest one is $9.99, and I don't mean $9.99. And so they're like, well, crap, this sucks. We're going to have to pay twice as much as it's worth. But you know what? You need it. You know what? You really need it. And you know what? You need it. So go ahead and do it. Bite the bullet. It sucks, but this is the situation that the Cowboys have put themselves in. Craig English says they real cheap, fam. I agree, Craig. The Cowboys are really cheap. That's the other thing. And look, we're about to get into potential players the Cowboys should and could potentially be interested in, but a lot of people that are not Team Pay Dak, I guess, to put them in a camp, in a box, those people say you can't pay Dak because you need that cap space. You got to go pay players in free agency. Who are the Cowboys paying in free agency that it makes you believe that they're going to do it? And I know we're about to literally talk about some names that they should consider, at the very least. But think about last year's big free agency haul was Gerald McCoy, who was a really interesting move, honestly, and it would have been fascinating to see him play out the whole year if he hadn't gotten hurt. So that one is a bit of an outlier, but okay, let's save all the cap space in the world for Dontari Poe, for Darryl Worley, for Maurice Kennedy, right? That's, the Cowboys are saving all this money, and then they're still bargain hunting, which doesn't necessarily make sense. The Lunatic says, hopefully Jerry's taking over the Dak negotiations before it gets done on March 9th, a week before the start of the free agency period. Shout out to the Lunatic. On pace to be the MVP of today's stream, because the Cowboys do have until March 9th to place the franchise tag on Dak Prescott. If they don't have a long-term deal in place with him by then, they will 99.99999% franchise tag him, and then they will have till July 15th to figure this out. They will continue to drag their feet, which is a bad idea. But let's talk about some free agency. I know you saw the title of the video. You saw the art at the beginning. We are going to talk about some players the Cowboys could, or rather should, at the very least be interested in. That's the purpose of this discussion. This is a focus group, all right? Pretend we're sitting down in a conference room, and I brought some snacks, some brand bars, some juice. We got some iced tea in the corner if you want it. If you want ice, you can get it. If not, if you want it at room temp, sometimes I'm in that mood myself. But so this is a focus group to kind of talk about players. And again, the primary point here is the philosophy that the Dallas Cowboys need to have. It's not about a particular player. What the Cowboys need to be approaching this offseason with the mindset of is go out and get dudes. This needs to be the offseason of the one-year deal, all right, and not with Dak Prescott. This needs to be the offseason of going out, loading up, getting guys, because the salary cap is low, as we all know, we all understand. It's been a while. I promise you, the next time one of the Joneses is in front of a microphone or on the phone, on the radio in Dallas, we will hear a comment about pie, all right? Just wait, because we're going to hear about how there's only so much pie to go around. But let's focus on the piece of pies that can be devoted to free agency positions. The Dallas Cowboys need help in the secondary. That's what we're here to talk about today. Some free agent to be cornerbacks that the Dallas Cowboys could, rather should be interested. We have a list up here. If you are watching live with us, leave a comment. The player that you believe of this list makes the most sense for the Dallas Cowboys to be interested in. Now, again, I'm not trying to sit here and stand for any one of these dudes, all right? But we need to consider the state of the position, because a lot of people, they see lists and they see these names and they say, look, That's not great. I'm not pumped about this. Yeah, I know you're not pumped about this, but right now, do you know what the Dallas Cowboys options are at cornerback? Right now, the main options for the Cowboys at corner are Trayvon Diggs, cool, we like that, and Anthony Brown. And so maybe they'll re-sign one or maybe both. They'll shock us and re-sign both of Chidobe Awuzie and Jordan Lewis. That would probably be a mistake. But the point is, and maybe they'll draft Patrick Surtain. Maybe they'll draft Caleb Farley. But they're still going to need some depth at the cornerback position. Again, this is the offseason of the one-year deal. So some players that we're focusing on here for the purposes of this discussion. Quentin Dunbar is about to be a free agent. Nickel Coleman, Kevin King. Shout out to Kevin King from the 2017 NFL Draft when the Dallas Cowboys did not mess up at all by drafting Taco Charlton. Cameron Sutton, DJ Hayden, Akella Witherspoon, and Troy Hill. These are all options for the Dallas Cowboys to consider at the cornerback position. Again, you have to focus on the mindset here. The mindset is establishing depth. You're not going to have 5 CB1s, all right? You're not going to have 5 dudes that are grading out in the top 20 on Pro Football Focus. You are going to have 5 guys that are, really good to okay to moderately okay to that's not all right. But I mean, the reality is right now, if let's say the Cowboys brought back Chidobe Awuzie and drafted Patrick Surtain, right? And they could go a number of ways in the draft with the 10th overall pick, but let's just say it went that way. Your top 4 cornerbacks at this point would obviously be Trayvon Diggs, and Chidobe Awuzie would start for you in week 1. You obviously then have your rookie Patrick Surtain, you have Anthony Brown, and then we'll see if Dan Quinn does fully move Reggie Robinson back to cornerback, but that's it. And so if you're telling me you'd rather have Reggie Robinson, who I'm a fan of, but over any one of these dudes, I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, I think that, look, the Cowboys cannot be afraid to spend money. And a lot of people talk about, well, what's Dan Quinn got to do to be better than Mike Nolan? First of all, not a lot. But second of all, I mean, the Cowboys have to help him, right? Because if the Cowboys continue to just go down the Dontari Poe and the Darryl Worley route, you could have any defensive coordinator in the world, but if you're not giving them the right groceries, things aren't going to turn out the way you want. The Lunatics is Roby Coleman. Look, I like that option. I'm certainly not opposed to this. I think we should focus. Look, I like Quentin Dunbar a lot, and Quentin Dunbar fits the math. Is the reason why I like the move. What I mean by that is I like the move as a real possibility, because we can sit here and dream, right? We've talked about the Cowboys should go get Patrick Peterson and play him. A lot of people say play him, kick him out to free safety. Play him at corner. I mean, I know he's over 30, but play him at corner. He's better than the options you have. A lot of people say go get Richard Sherman, kick him out to free safety. Play him at corner. He's better than the options that you currently have. But you look at it, and this is the key here, because the Cowboys, we know, are penny pinchers. They are frugal, as mentioned. They do not want to spend a lot of cheddar. All right, so $3.25 million for a year's worth of Quentin Dunbar. Who says no to that? I mean, how, I know that sounds like a lot of money, and then you get the people that are like, oh, I don't want to spend that much money. You got to spend the money. If you want the thing, you got to spend the money. Go back to the PS5 here. The whole thing is the PS5. I know Dak Prescott was the PS5 a minute ago. It's a floating analogy. Just kind of go with it. And so ultimately, these are options, and these are neck of the woods in terms of prices. This is what these players were paid last year. Quentin Dunbar, $3.25 million. Kevin King coming off that rookie contract. So you're not going to get Kevin King for this rate, $1.4 million. Now, we've talked also about the Cowboys how they should potentially rather trade or be interested in trading for Stephon Gilmore, who's only, cap charge, I'm frustrated. I had some coffee. I've got the dog here. He's asleep, so, it is what it is. Stephon Gilmore has a cap charge of $7 million this year, which to pay that price for somebody who won Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago would be ballin'. But again, probably not something the Cowboys are interested in. They would have to trade for Stephon Gilmore. But Kevin King, you're going to have to pay Kevin King more than this. But I think Kevin King is a good example. Somebody who's played some really good football, somebody who's been part of an organization that has success and is storied and whatever the case may be, whatever superlatives you want to talk about. Somebody who obviously has a bit of a tie back to Mike McCarthy. But if I'm Kevin King, really is the point I'm driving at. I like this one-year option. I like what Edmonds was saying. I like the idea of, I've been a part of the Green Bay Packers. We've gone to 2 straight NFC championship games. It hasn't been enough. That really sucked. I want to go take a 1-year deal. I'm still really young. I'll go get a ring. Hopefully that's the plan. And then next year, I'll go get paid. I'll hit the market. The salary cap will rise. Everything will be awesome. Everything will be golden. And look, obviously this whole idea and this whole philosophy hinges on the fact that players need to view the Cowboys as legitimate legitimate contenders to be a Super Bowl contender. And, here's the other thing, and I don't want to keep going back to Dak, but everything with the Cowboys goes back to Dak. But if you're Kevin King, if I could point the right direction, if you're Kevin King, and you aren't, let's say you're considering the Cowboys or the Bucks or whatever. Bucks are bad. Let's say you're considering the Cowboys or the Rams, right? Let's say those are your two choices. And it's, March 18th, and you don't know what to do because you think that both of these teams could potentially be contenders in the NFC. You know that the Packers are going to be there, so you got to make the right choice. Your whole philosophy is predicated upon winning the Super Bowl this year, and then you're going to go get paid. Well, if you're Kevin King and you look at the Rams and say, man, the Rams, they know what they're doing. The Rams traded for Matthew Stafford. Yeah, they don't have any first-round picks, but they don't care. The Rams are focused on the here and the now. There is no doubt. There is no sense of confusion. There is no anything when it comes to what their number one objective is. They want to go win the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. And then he said, okay, I did some research on the Rams. All right, cool. Let me thumb through the papers here. And the Cowboys. All right, cool. America's team, all that jazz, whatever. I don't even know who the quarterback's going to be there next year. Think about, say you and I were free agents together, right? And we're sitting here, we're talking, we're sharing a couple of Whataburgers or Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches, whatever your speed is. I'm more of a Whataburger guy myself. Shout out, of course, to the GOAT Whataburger here in the state of Texas. But if we're considering the Cowboys or someone else, right? And we don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. Like, I don't want to sign with the Cowboys if they're going to let Dak walk or if he's going to be pissed off or if there's going to be this, situation of confusion. And I definitely don't want to sign a multi-year deal with the Cowboys if Dak Prescott's playing out on the franchise tag because I don't want to be part of a team that's rebuilding in 2022. So, if you are still somehow, even after the first 10 minutes of this video, not convinced that the Cowboys need to pay Dak Prescott, he is literally the first domino to fall. Rather, this is a better way to put it. And I think it actually works because I believe Dak Prescott's been around for a while now. He's not he's not a kid anymore in Cowboys years. Do you remember the story about, and I promise we'll get to Kevin King, when Dak was a rookie about how I don't think I'm making this up, he eats his spaghetti with ranch dressing. Like instead of marinara sauce, which is gross to think about, but he eats his spaghetti with ranch dressing. The point there is, this is like, you ever go somewhere and order chicken tenders, right? You get like a chicken finger basket, chicken tender basket, something like that, maybe some wherever your spot is. You've got, I know you have a spot that you get chicken tenders. I got like 8 spots where I do that. But the worst thing ever is when they bring you the meal and they don't bring you the ranch dressing. Because you can't start. You know what I mean? Like you're sitting there and you've got this food and you're like, man, this looks really good, but you need the ranch dressing. So you literally can't. So you have to like be the awkward person that's like, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I asked for ranch dressing. Could I have a cup of ranch dressing? Oh, sure, no problem. And then they go and sometimes they take forever. And so you're sitting there and you're like, man, this food looks so good, but I can't eat any of it because I don't have any ranch dressing. That's what the Dak Prescott situation is for free agents, all right? Free agents have the meal. The meal is potentially joining the Dallas Cowboys, but they need the ranch dressing has to arrive at the table first so that they can ultimately start eating and enjoy their meal. Okay, it is what it is. But Kevin King is, I think, a really, really, really interesting option. Again, a young player, still very young. Daz Jackson says King would be a good bet cornerback to have, less stress at the cornerback position. Again, there's other options here. I mean, there truly are. I mean, we showed a list of them a minute ago, but Kevin King is a little bit of a safer bet, and you're going to have to pay a little bit more of a premium price for that. But, I mean, think about the corners the Cowboys have added in free agency in recent years. We talked about Darryl Worley last year. Think about Nolan Carroll in 2017. We mentioned Maurice Kennedy. I mean, they're, if you want some legitimate, reliable depth, you got to pay for some legitimate, reliable depth. And the Dallas Cowboys have, not been willing to do that. And if you do that, if you do go get Kevin King and honestly, I would encourage, because some people would say, okay, we signed Kevin King, we're paying him, $4 or $5 million for 2021. Great, whatever the case may be. I don't think he's going to command, elite cornerback money. Again, all of this, I can't stress. This all hinders, not the band. This all relies on Lips of an angel, good times. Anyway, this all relies upon free agents being willing to take less, which I do think we're going to see more of. But if the Cowboys do go get Kevin King, especially if it's on a one-year deal, but even if it's not, and Kevin King represents something larger, if the Cowboys do go get insert legitimate cornerback here, some people would say, okay, cool, and now you don't have to draft a cornerback with the 10th overall pick. Wrong. Now you go draft a cornerback with the 10th overall pick, you turn a weakness into a legitimately, somewhat kind of sort of strength, right? Because if that's the situation now you've got Trayvon Diggs in year 2, you've got Kevin King, again, hypothetically, or whoever the arbitrary cornerback is at this point, you've got whoever your rookie cornerback is, whether it's Caleb Farley or Patrick Surtain, some people like J.C. Horn, whatever the case may be, you've got Anthony Brown as a point of depth, and if you do bring back Chidobe Awuzie or Jordan Lewis, you have these bridges at other positions, and then you have another project in Reggie Robinson, and so I like that idea, but if you're not a Kevin King fan, Cowboys, you could always go get Garyon Conley, former first-round pick himself, another name we wanted to kind of mention. Again, all of this depends, too, on how much the Cowboys are going to be willing to pay, which, as evidenced by the situation that they're in with their quarterback at the moment, isn't a whole heck of a lot. But these are options, and the Cowboys, the whole point here, and I know I've said the whole point several times because there's a lot of points, but the whole point here is the Cowboys simply cannot just run this back and cannot just, rely on whatever. Oh, Dan Quinn will coach him up. No, enough with that. You got to go get some people to really fill this out because what you have had before has not been enough. So you have to go fill this out with bodies so that in the event of emergency, I mentioned Nolan Carroll. Do you remember in week 2 of the 2017 season, rookie Chidobe Awuzie gets hurt. Nolan Carroll gets hurt. All of a sudden, the Cowboys hadn't dressed enough cornerbacks. They literally had nobody to rely on except for Jordan Lewis. And so you need this depth. You look at every great team, and what they have is depth. And what the Cowboys don't do is they don't say, you know what, we need to keep adding. We need to keep adding. We need to keep adding. That's what you should be doing because at some point, look at last season, somebody's going to get hurt and then crap, that really sucked. Somebody else is going to get hurt and then, oh gosh, and then somebody else is going to get hurt. And so you have to provide enough depth for yourself so that you are prepared in the event of emergency plan A, emergency plan B, emergency plan C, so on and so forth. You have to have a lot of contingencies, which is something the Cowboys, ultimately haven't had for a long time. We mentioned cornerbacks, though. Let's go to safeties. All right, let's do the safety dance, one of the best songs of all time. These are potential safeties, again, because right now the options sure are not pretty. And I've said this several times if you've been watching our videos here at Blogging the Boys. And if you haven't subscribed, do it right there below. Subscribe to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. We do a lot of fun things around here. And we love you all and appreciate it. When we see the subscribe thing, it makes us happy. It's like, it's I don't know what the chemical that releases in your, is it endorphins? Whatever. Anyway, I've said a million times, I love Donovan Wilson. I am a fighting Texas Aggie. But the Cowboys cannot just say, you know what, Donald looked great last year. We're good. No, you cannot do that because that's exactly what you did with Xavier Woods. And this past season was not a good year for Xavier Woods. We heard the comment about effort, which I still maintain was misconstrued just a little bit. And ultimately that didn't pan out. It's almost like relying on day 3 picks is not a sustainable strategy in the NFL when it comes to roster building. So look, keep Donovan Wilson, right? Keep him around. Work with him. See if he truly does have something. Maybe he is the exceptional, late round pick that turns into something special for you. But hedge your bet. Go get points of depth. That is something that the Cowboys need to be doing. Daz Jackson says Hooker for safety. You see, obviously, Malik Hooker on the list here. Bradley McDougald, Deion Bush, Jaquiski Tart, and Rashawn Jenkins. Rashawn Jenkins, by the way, fantastic initials. No bias here whatsoever. But these are all options. Again, these are names that the Dallas Cowboys should be considering. And are we going to throw, a party if they sign any of these guys? No, we're not going to throw a party, but we will be here on the YouTube channel. By the way, free agency, all that stuff, we're going to have you updated for all the main things. Like I said, subscribe so you don't miss any of it. But these moves, these players, these acquisitions, so to speak, hypothetically, would represent trying is maybe too vague, but would represent the level of forward thinking that we're talking about here. Because, again, this is going to be a very strange offseason. This offseason is kind of living in a vacuum, right? Where one-year deals, smaller from a monetary standpoint, contracts are going to be all the rage. So you're living in the tunnel vision of 2020. It's like Marty McFly in Back to the Future Part 2 when he's on the hoverboard and he's trying to get away from Biff in the big, I'm not a car guy, but the big awesome car from 1955. And he's, you're just living in that tunnel. That's all you're doing right now. Don't focus on the rope at the end with Doc and the DeLorean. No, you are focusing on the tunnel final of 2021. So pay a lot of dudes just for this year. Go get 3 of these guys. I mean, that's what it is. Like, you need depth because you need to have options. And look, we don't have Trey Boston on this graphic, as the Lunatic points out. By the way, Des Jackson says Giga Maggies, a whoop to you. But again, another fine option. And we've been talking about Trey Boston to the Cowboys forever. But it is something that, ultimately hasn't panned out for the Cowboys. Last season, by the way, Trey Boston made we'll round up $1.2 million for the Carolina Panthers, was set to make $2.25 million for the Panthers this season in 2021. Obviously, they cut him. But the point is, if you're telling me, let's use that value, $2.25 million, would you pay that for Trey Boston? And look, I'm not saying that Trey Boston comes in and is like automatically the person whose jersey you're going to go out to buy if you're a Cowboys fan, right? But he raises the floor. That's what we're trying to do here. Raise the floor. The NFL salary cap floor went up $5 million. So we're trying to raise the floor of talent, raise the floor of expectation, raise the floor of the people that you have in the position that we are talking about here. The safety position has been one the Cowboys have ignored forever. Go get somebody like this. Go get Malik Hooker. Malik Hooker is, look, I'm not going to try to, paint the Sistine Chapel here, but Malik Hooker is a legitimate option. And we do know that the Dallas Cowboys love to go back to the first-round pick. Well, we know that they like to say, you know what, this guy was valued at one point in time. This guy could be a legitimate option. He could have some talent left in the tank, whatever the case may be. This is a prime candidate for that. And this represents, again, just the smallest level of try in terms of free agency, which is really what we're looking for here. We're not looking for, the Cowboys to, go out and, this is not what I mean, but go out and get Earl Thomas. We're not looking for them to break the bank. That doesn't necessarily make sense, especially with the financial situation that they have, created themselves, by the way, but it is what it is. These are risks that are very moderate, risks that make sense. And these are the types of risks that we need to see the Cowboys taking. We do not need to see the Cowboys risking something like their second-round pick like they do every year with somebody like Jalen Smith, who worked out for a year, but obviously wasn't somebody that was relied upon for the last 2 years. Now, the Lunatic says the lower salary cap will squeeze the free agent middle-class players. The upper echelon will get paid, but we can get some talent on surprisingly low contracts. Yes, I mentioned it a minute ago. The Lunatic is officially the MVP of the day. Congratulations to the Lunatic. Players like Allen Robinson are going to get paid. Duh, right? Like the top free agents. Every year you see the top 101 free agents, the top 100 free agents, top 106 free agents, whatever, that outlet's doing. And yeah, your creme de la creme dudes are going to get paid. Allen Robinson is going to get paid. If Chris Godwin leaves the Buccaneers, he's going to get paid. If Shaq Barrett leaves the Buccaneers, he's going to get paid. We are talking about the middle class. There's going to be an oversaturation here. There's going to be so many players here. And this list is going to grow. We're talking about players that are just available at this moment, right? This list is going to grow when teams have to make decisions to get under the salary cap themselves, and so they're going to say goodbye to different players. They're going to have to eat some dead money themselves. The Cowboys might be in that boat with the aforementioned Jalen Smith. So this group is going to get larger, and that is the point. Go into this group and come out with something, right? The other day, I tweeted about this, by the way. My parents have been cleaning out their attic, and they gave me a bunch of old bins, like all my old stuff from when I was a kid. And I opened a bin, and it was awesome. There was all sorts of stuff, but it was like a hodgepodge of stuff, right? And like some of it is whatever, but some of it is still, not cool, but some of it is like cool, vintage cool. And so go find that stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff to be found, and just go pick up the things you like. Go get one Malik Hooker, go get one Kevin King, and just kind of walk out with this big old, like, we want you to have your hands so full that, when you're shopping at like I don't know, like Kirkland's or something, and your wife's making you whole like a soap thing and another soap thing and then a pillow thing, and you're just like walking around like this and you're trying to check your phone, and then the super nice and warm associate walks up and says, do you want a bag? That's what we need, Cowboys. You need to have so much crap in your hands player-wise that somebody walks up to you and says, you need a bag. All right, that's what we need. So go out and get all of those dudes. Load up, because 2021 is the year. And what's more than that, like, this is true from an overall principle standpoint, right? This is the year to focus on, the tunnel vision of the year, like we talked about. But this is true to the nth degree for the Cowboys. Why is it the case? I don't know. Maybe it's because they have a really good team. Okay, maybe you want to look beyond that. I don't know. Maybe it's because they play in the worst division in the NFL. All right. a lot of you, and I'm in this boat too, but a lot of us over time have had an argument with somebody that was a New England Patriots fan, our cousin or our friend or whatever the case may be, and said, yeah, well, it's super easy for the Patriots to win Super Bowls because they play in a really bad division. They get to walk to the playoffs. They get a home playoff game every year because they play in the crummy AFC East. The Cowboys are in the AFC East this year, all right? They are literally in that. The Philadelphia Eagles are a dumpster fire, and it's a shame they traded Carson Wentz because that would have continued to percolate if they hadn't, but still, they're not going to be very good. The New York Giants have Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett, which is the most, anyway. And the Washington football team, while they don't have a quarterback and do have a really good defense, barring them acquiring Deshaun Watson, the Washington football team is not a threat. And even if you view them as a threat, you have 2 out of 33% of your division games are tough, and one of them is at home at that. You should cakewalk to a division if you're the Dallas Cowboys. And on top of that, you play in the NFC, all right? Right now, the landscape of the AFC is super tough. You got to go through the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to go through the Buffalo Bills. You got to go through the Baltimore Ravens. We could throw the Tennessee Titans in that mix. We could throw, if you want, the Cleveland Browns are going to be on the rise. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are able to get it together, although I'm not personally in on that myself. Maybe the Indianapolis Colts with Carson Wentz are going to be a factor. The AFC is loaded, whereas if you're the Cowboys, it should be super easy for you to cruise to a division win. All right, awesome. And actually, let's use the reigning world champions as an example. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't even win their division, by the way, but thanks to some help, obviously, by the way, the scheduling worked out. Got to play the NFC East winner in the playoffs. Cool, no big deal. And they got to play the New Orleans Saints, and Drew Brees is one of the GOATs of all time, but, not that great in the here and now, which is why they were able to stomp them. And then their only tough game to get to the Super Bowl was against the Green Bay Packers. And so if you're the Cowboys, yes, you have conference contenders like the Packers, like the Buccaneers, like the Rams, but the list is so much smaller than it is on the other side of the field when it comes to the conferences. And so this is really the time. I really despise the term win now. I hate window. I hate those terms, but this is the time to do it, right? Like you've got the capital, you've got the ability, you've got the players, you've brought back Kellen Moore, you've got Dan Quinn, you have a top 10 pick, you have all of these things that should be working out for you to ultimately be one of the legitimate and true contenders. So what do you need on top of that? You need depth. Go out and get depth on the defensive side of the ball. You will be happy that you did. Trust me. But before we leave, I do want to mention a few offensive players the Cowboys should give some slight consideration to, and just, again, these are in case of emergency type things. Ty Sembrilo. Look, the Cowboys have tackle issues right now, in that, by the way, my phone's ringing, so they don't know I'm streaming right now. How could they? The whole world's supposed to know right now, but no big deal. Anyway, not a big call, just, whatever. It's no big deal. I actually don't even know. You get those random calls, you just let them ring forever. But anyway, we're focused, getting back focused, like I said. The Cowboys have tackle issues. It was reported earlier in the week. This week already feels like 10 weeks, but it was reported that Tyron Smith is working out, that Lyle Collins is working out. He's got his own personal trainer. Awesome to see. Not worth getting the juices flowing in February, but we saw this team really have to play backup tackles all of last year. And while I maintain that Brandon Knight and Terrence Steele got some really valuable experience, it would be very Cowboys-ish to rely on that, right? It would be very Cowboys-ish to say, you know what? We're good. Brandon Knight, Terrence Steele, they played. We'll be fine if Tyron or Lyle are going to get hurt. There's no if, and I hate to say that, but you should, because this would be the responsible way to plan. You should ultimately be planning for one of them to be injured, all right? You should be ready for that contingency because that's what good teams do. Good teams have points of depth at all positions, and you can't just say, man, our defense is really bad, so we only got to focus there. No, you need help at tackle, and maybe you want to sign a free agent, or maybe you want to sign an offensive tackle. By the way, we did a video here at the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. Subscribe. Go back in our video channel right now, and we broke down a bunch of tackles that are options for the Cowboys with the 10th overall pick. Obviously, Penei Sewell, obviously Rashawn Slater, but we broke them down. The fantastic Matt Minich. It was a film review. I promise you, you will love it. Go check it out. Put it on your watch later, whatever the case may be. Go watch it on the big screen, right? Go watch on the big screen so you can see the plays. It gives you all sorts of film actions that I think you'll really like. But this is one option. This is one point of depth the Cowboys should consider. And they also are going to need to consider options in the middle of their offensive line. I love Tyler Biadasz, all right, and I think he's the center of the future for the Dallas Cowboys like we all do. But Joe Looney's probably going to walk, right, in free agency this offseason. And I know you have some flexibility there. Maybe you believe Connor McGovern can play center, but don't bet on that. Don't hedge the bet. Hedge the bet. Look at what Ben Garland played for last year. I mean, and again, I know there's only so much pie, but these are options the Cowboys should consider when it comes to their overall depth along the offensive line because crap happens. I mean, honestly, crap happens. That's the only way that it can be properly explained. The final one, and look, I know I might catch some, what are you doing here for this one? But let me explain. Brashad Perriman, we don't know what the situation is going to be for the Cowboys at wide receiver in this sense. We know that Amari Cooper is going to be on the Cowboys this season. We know that CeeDee Lamb is going to be on the Cowboys this season. I'm not saying that Michael Gallup is not going to be on the Cowboys this season. However, and it would be irresponsible not to think this way. Michael Gallup is entering the final year of his rookie contract with the Dallas Cowboys, right? And it is difficult to imagine that they would pay him next year because they've already paid Amari Cooper. They're conceivably going to pay CeeDee Lamb when his rookie contract's up in a few years. I mean, before we know it, we'll be there. We'll still be doing YouTube videos. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. So it's unlikely the Cowboys will re-sign Michael Gallup. The only avenue in which I think that makes sense is if the Cowboys cut Amari Cooper and they can get out of that deal after this season if they want to, right? But earlier we talked about how it makes sense to restructure Amari Cooper. So if you do that, you can't get out of this deal after this year. And I think a lot of people thought when Amari signed the extension last year, oh, he'll fall off. He'll be 30. It won't be worth it. But Amari Cooper was, we actually had an article about this at Blogging the Boys last week. Amari Cooper quietly had a dominant season last season, and that was without Dak Prescott for most of it. And so I think if you told me, let me put it this way. What if I told you we're fine, or let me ask you, excuse me, I'm not going to tell you anything. I respect you too much. Let me ask you, how do you feel about restructuring Amari Cooper's contract, so committing at least one more year to him, 2022 is that extra year beyond this year, and relying on him and CeeDee Lamb? And we can take Michael Gallup and we can trade him for Stephon Gilmore. How do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel about that? That hypothetical? Because that to me is a responsible way to team build. Look, I don't want to operate without Michael Gallup. That doesn't sound fun to me, but he represents the largest trade piece the Cowboys have. I mentioned all the stuff that my parents found. They found my old Pokemon cards. You ever trade those things? Like sometimes you trade a card, you would trade a card you didn't want to give up, but you had to do it to get something that you really needed. And so I don't want to give up Michael Gallup, but he represents the most tradable asset for the Dallas Cowboys. And we mentioned it. At a certain point, the pie is going to fill up after the Cowboys hopefully pay Dak Prescott. You only have one first-round pick, right? You only have so many resources. So create some. Create some by way of trade. And it would suck, but you're getting rid of a player a year too early versus a year too late. And that is a smart way to operate. Incidentally, you would be sending him to the New England Patriots, who kind of pioneered that logic and methodology, whatever you want to call it. But that would be awesome. Honestly, you would dramatically improve your cornerback position. And then you wouldn't have to go pay one, right? And then you could pay a wide receiver. Now, Brashad Perriman is suggested here, another former first-round pick. Honestly, Brashad Perriman should, and look, if the Cowboys are going to keep Michael Gallup, you don't need to pay a wide receiver. You know what I mean? You could just draft your wide receiver 4. But if the Cowboys move on from Michael Gallup, I think they will be in the market for a wide receiver. And I think, just to have that extra point of depth, obviously Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. And here's the other thing, is the Cowboys discovered Dalton Schultz last year. Right? So a year ago, we were saying the Cowboys need to live out of 11 personnel. Live, 11, 11, 11. Well, now you have some options out of 12 personnel when Blake Jarwin's hopefully back, which, lowers the need for that third wide receiver. Now, holy crap, all of you are against trading Michael Gallup for Stephon Gilmore. You want draft picks. I'm not going to be the draft picks are overrated guy, but in this specific example, this specific hypothetical, I would much rather trade for a known quantity in Stephon Gilmore than a pick, because you're not going to get, I don't know if you think, but you're not going to get a first round pick from Michael Gallup or anything, because again, he's entering a contract year. You could conceivably expect a third round pick for him, because that's what he'll likely net you as far as compensatory picks go in 2023. And so maybe you want to fast forward that process. But overall, if you're telling me those are my options, a third round pick or Stephon Gilmore, I know I'm kind of making this up at this point. I'll take Stephon Gilmore. But I understand if you disagree. In fact, we can agree to disagree, all right? You and I, we're We're friends. We're pals. We're buddies. That's how we operate at Blogging the Boys. That's how we operate here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Make sure you do subscribe. We have live streams every week, sometimes twice a week. Again, working on 100 times. We have film reviews. I mentioned the film review we did on all the offensive tackle options for the Cowboys in the upcoming NFL draft. So we have a lot of fun things going on here. We have a lot of fun things planned, and we really, I say this all the time, we appreciate everybody who makes us part of your Dallas Cowboys fan experience. We all love this team. We all want to see this team do well. We are all very passionate about it, and it is just the sickest thing in the world that we can all come together and talk about it and have some fun. That's what we're all kind of meant to do here, and so we appreciate you joining us here for our live stream today, whether you watched it live or watched it later, whatever the case may be. I know I mentioned our MVP, but I want to give a shout-out, small MVP, to my dog Bear, who was in the room the whole time and didn't bark. So way to go, Bear. Proud of you, buddy. Anyway, everybody have a great rest of your week. We've got some more fun stuff coming your way later on throughout it all. Yeah, good times. By the way, later on tomorrow, if you're watching this on Wednesday, on Thursday, I host a show on the SB Nation NFL show. It is available on all major podcast platforms. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about Dak Prescott. As you can imagine, we will have Shireen Williams on, Mother Football herself from Pro Football Talk. It's a conversation I think you'll really enjoy, so check that out. Again, available on all major podcast platforms. That about does it for this particular session. Do me a favor. Have the best day ever. You know why? Because you deserve it. We'll see you next time.
Talking the boys.